I just started a new job and I thought this would be the perfect time to revamp my work dashboard on Notion. I've been working on it for a few days and I'm finally ready to test out the system. Let's jump in. This is my new and improved, fully revamped work dashboard. Starting at the very top, I'm going for a pink and green kind of garden motif. I have added a little icon, and up here I have 4 buttons that we'll return to in just a moment. On the left-hand side, I have a control center. Here we have today's task, and this consists of tasks that have a due date of today. I do have 2 due dates in all of my tasks. I have a due date, DUE, which says when the task is actually due to my boss or when there's an actual deadline related to a task. And then I have the due date, the DO date, and that's when I actually plan on executing the specific task. So you can see how a report might be due on Friday, but I want to work on the report or write the report, say, on a Wednesday or Thursday. So those are the differences. Here in today's tasks, I have individual tasks that are due today. So I'm going to go ahead and click New Page here, and I'm going to add task due today and populate that there. Under today's tasks are past due tasks. So these are tasks that have a due date before today. So anything that is past due. I'm going to click and say yesterday's task here. I'm going to open that on the side view and give it a due date of at least June 12th. Let's give it a July 11th due date. All right, we've populated a task for today and a past task. Here on the right-hand portion, I have an embed of a Google Calendar. In the past, I have been able to use a Google Calendar integration, but depending on the firewalls or the specific privacy settings of your company or organization, you might not be able to do that. I'm really happy that the organization I work with now uses the Google Suite, but I'm still not able to export Google Calendars using an integration. So I have gone through the process of embedding this calendar. If you're interested in a full video on how I set up this work dashboard, leave a comment in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, consider subscribing to this channel. Let's continue scrolling down to this middle section of my work dashboard. I use dividers to partition my work dashboard into 3 sections. This middle section focuses on tasks that are due this week, as well as new tasks that don't have a due date yet, and tasks that I'm waiting on or have been assigned to other members of my team. You can see here under July 11th that yesterday's task, or the task that we previously entered as a past due task, has automatically populated here on this week's tasks. I also don't have any tasks that don't have a due date. Let's go ahead and play with this new task button here at the very top. This new task button generates a new task in my master task database. I'm going to click that, open up the page, and put in Unscheduled task, and I'm just going to leave that as it is and go back to my work dashboard. Since that task does not have a due date, it has auto-populated here in my tasks to be scheduled. Now I can take this task and drag it into one of these days. So now it is scheduled for July 8th, and it is no longer here in my scheduled task list. It will also auto-populate here in my past due list since it has a due date before today. This waiting on list, let's go ahead and create a new task. And we are going to add a team member, and I have added 2 team members so far. This is a task for Peter, so I am going to assign it to him, and that is now going to auto-populate here as a task for Peter. One major difference in this work dashboard compared to my last work dashboard is an absence of checkboxes, and that's because I learned a slightly more advanced way of documenting when a task is complete. Let's go with this unscheduled task, which is now a scheduled task. If I hit done, there is going to be a status change that automatically happens. I have programmed the done button within my master task list to automatically change the status property to complete and also auto-populate a completed property indicating the date and time that the task was completed. Let's move on to the 3rd section of my work dashboard. This is my prioritized task list. So far, I have put in tasks and I haven't put any sort of prioritization label on them. But task prioritization or stratification of a to-do list is essential for getting things done. I use the Eisenhower 2x2 decision matrix where every task is identified as having high or low urgency, as well as being either high or low in importance. So let's grab some of these tasks and go in and put in a priority level. This one is going to be high urgency, high importance. This one is going to be high urgency, low importance. Let's put in 2 additional tasks here. Let's say task for project A. We'll make that high urgency, high importance, and we'll do task for project B and make that low urgency, low importance. And when I scroll down to this view, you'll see that we now have 4 separate lists: this high urgency, high importance, low urgency, and so on and so forth. I actually want to go in and change these labels since I do want to have an additional indicator of what these things actually mean. So I have used a color-coded system. You can see that it goes green, yellow, red, and then blue, but I want to be even more explicit. So I'm going to go into the source database, which is this master task list, and I'm going to go into priority level and edit that property. Things that are high importance, high urgency are things that should be done now. High importance, low urgency are things that should be scheduled. I've updated the labels to now for high urgency, high importance, schedule for high importance, low urgency, since you want to actually take some time and put some focused effort into doing something if it's of high importance but low urgency. The original Eisenhower matrix has delegate for this low importance, high urgency, but very few of us have someone that we can delegate all of these tasks for. I consider these tasks kind of like waste tasks. They're not really important to my central job or mission, but potentially they're things that the organization values or something that I kind of just have to do as a process of being an employee. That falls under this waste category. And then things that are low importance and low urgency are just things that I will avoid unless there's some pressing reason. And if there is a pressing reason, that means that the urgency isn't low or the importance isn't low. If things are falling into this category, I might never do them at all. All right, I feel better with this updated prioritized task list. One thing that you'll notice is that we have 2 high importance, high urgency tasks here in the weekly task view. This weekly view is programmed to leave all of the completed tasks in the calendar. That allows me to see all of the things that I've completed during the week, as well as things that are still in progress or not yet started. This prioritized task list is exclusively for tasks that I haven't completed yet. And as you can see, when I complete a task, it disappears from the prioritized task list altogether. I also have one alternative view in this main dashboard, and that is for staff tasks. When I click on this, I get a list of tasks by person, and I'll show you what this looks like. If I add another task, let's say Abby's task, and that is for Abba, you'll see that I have 2 lists now. I have the list of tasks that have been assigned to Abba and the list of tasks that have been assigned to Peter. And it just gives me a quick way to identify what tasks have been assigned to what team members. My organization doesn't use Notion. I can't force other team members to use my system. This is just a way for me to keep track of what other people are doing. And this specifically comes into play when I have a task that's being blocked by someone else's actions or lack thereof. So I like to have a place where I can document what other people are doing or working on. While we're here, I can also attach a related note or related meeting for that specific task. Let's use Abby's task as an example. Starting with the status, let's put it as not started and have the due date be, let's say, July 16th. We'll be able to play around with notes and meetings and how that's linked to tasks as we move through and look at some of the other databases. Let's leave that alone for now and go back to my prioritized task list. All right, that is my main dashboard. This is where I spend most of my time during my workday. I look at what I have going on, what things are due today, what things are past due, as well as a bird's eye view of the entire week, what I've already done and what I have yet to do this week. Any new tasks that I have not yet put into the schedule, anything that I'm waiting on from other people, and the prioritization for each of those tasks. Now let's go back to the control center. When I click into the projects page, I'm going to have my projects divided by their status, starting with the projects that are currently in progress, then projects I haven't started yet, projects that are being blocked by other things, projects that I've completed are a little less important and closer to the edge of the database, and things that have no specific project status. I also have this status here, ignoring. There are times when I'm asked to work on something or do a project and it's been kind of casually discussed with me in maybe one meeting or something like that. There's really no intention for me to follow through on this project. There's also no consequences if I don't do it. And I've been in knowledge work and office work long enough to know that sometimes, say, a supervisor or your supervisor's supervisor just verbalizes an idea and says, hey, maybe Jamie, you should work on this. That is not an edict. It's not an actual request for you to work on it. And if you are anything like me or a lot of the high performers that I work with in both a clinical setting or in a coaching setting, sometimes we are compelled to do all of these things when no one is going to follow up, and if you never start on the thing, it might just go away completely. I have learned over time to put some things in this holding pattern where I am actively ignoring a specific project because I know that it is so low importance and so low urgency, people don't even remember that it was brought up in a meeting. I'm gonna park it in this ignoring section because it might come up weeks from now or months from now, and I want to remember where it came from and what it was about, but I am not actively going to be working on it. I might never work on it. So there you have it, my ignoring section. Project B is a sample project. It doesn't have a project status. I'm going to move it into not started. Under project status, I have a project hub that is going to list all of the projects. So I have fictitious project A and B. It's going to have any tasks that are related to that project, any meetings that are related to that project, and any notes that are related to that project. I also have this very nifty accomplishments checklist. Let's go ahead and click accomplishments for project A. Accomplishments is a way for me to collect important projects, tasks, meetings, or events that I want to remember and bring up purposefully in my evaluations. So let's say project A was a major project of a lot of importance, but I only get evaluated once a year. I might have completed this project at the very beginning of my evaluation cycle, and 10 months have passed before I'm asked to provide a list of accomplishments for my evaluation. This is my little gift to my future self. I simply click accomplishments here, and when I go back to my dashboard, I have a listing here of accomplishments. So I'm going to click into that, and you'll see my major projects. I completed project A, and I consider that a major accomplishment. So just by checking on that checkbox, it's going to auto-populate here. If I do any major tasks and I click on that accomplishments checkbox, they're going to come up here. Same for major events or major meetings that I had. All right, back to the projects page. I am very excited about this setup because as I start gathering more and more tasks related to a specific project, I have a one-stop shop for looking at all of the tasks related to the projects, all of the meetings that I had related to that individual project, and even all of the notes related to that individual project. So I'm very excited about this project hub, and that is all that is in this project page. Moving on to areas, I am new to my position, so I'm just now gathering the major buckets of what I'm expected to do at work. And as I gather up those areas, the projects will fall under those areas. So as an example, if you're new here, hi, my name is Dr. Jamie. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist who focuses on performance optimization. And for the last 12 years, I've worked as a behavioral scientist. I recently transitioned to a new job, and I'll roughly be doing around the same thing that I've done for the last 12 years or so. Since I specialize in performance optimization as a clinical psychologist, some of the work that I do within organizations is giving people therapy to address underlying behavioral health concerns that are getting in the way of their optimal performance at work. So one of my work areas will likely be clinical practice. As a research scientist, one of my areas will likely also be research. There's also some HR administrative things like annual trainings or organization-wide requirements that I have to do as a condition of my job. Those will all fall under administrative tasks. So this is what I mean by job areas. Ideally, tasks will be in service of specific projects, and projects would fall under the general umbrella of work areas. The areas page reflects that relationship. This page gives me the general overview of what projects are under individual areas, as well as which tasks support specific areas. I'll show you how this works with Project B. Going into Project B, I'm going to add main area B, add that. And now we have under main area B, Project B. I changed the settings under groupings, and I can just move the groups around so that I can have them arranged as I like. So I have main area A, main area B, the projects that are under that, and I can also change the areas for the individual. So for Project B, for example, I'm going to go into areas, link it to main area B, and now that will come up there under area B, and I will just move that around. Once you have the actual categories, it's easy to just slide a task from no area into the individual areas. So I can move Abby's task here and Peter's task there. This is why I like to have a no areas list so that I can just drag and drop things into the individual areas. Moving on to references. References for me at work have to do with filing away either individual emails, meeting notes, or general notes. So I start off with having a meeting calendar, and in this meeting calendar, several things are going to be showing. First, it's going to be the name of the meeting as well as any associated meeting notes. If the meeting has any individual tasks related to that meeting, or if it was attended by any teammates, that is also going to be displayed here in the meetings calendar. Let's go into this in the hallway meeting, which is just a random meeting that happened in the hallway. I have a note related to that meeting that happened in the hallway, and I have team members, let's just say Abby was there as well. And let's say that in that meeting, we discussed Abby's task. So now I have a quick reference point to know that in the meeting that happened on the 13th, I know who was there, the task that was discussed, and I have additional notes that I might have taken during the meeting. So everything that I need to know at a glance comes right up in this calendar view. Moving further down the page, I have a list of all the meetings, and I do want those arranged by date descending. That way the most recent meeting is on top, and I also have all of my notes also sorted in descending order by date. I'm going to rename this because this is all notes and reference emails. I do keep my emails in my email inbox, and they are also sorted using the para method, but sometimes I want to actually have the full email to refer back to in a meeting or in some sort of discussion. So sometimes I will copy and paste an email directly into an individual note, and so I just wanted to make sure that I name that accurately. Since I can't see email, I'm going to rename it again and just change it to notes and emails, and that will be listed below. Next up is my archive, and this is pretty boring. I just have a page for completed tasks, and that is for all tasks that have been completed, and it has the date that the task was completed, and nothing else is on this archive page just yet since I'm only a week into my new job. Moving on to accomplishments, we've already discussed this, how there are projects, tasks, events, and meetings that can fall in here. Let's say this task that we completed, this unscheduled task, was an accomplishment. I'm going to click that. When I go into accomplishments, we'll see this task. I also display another property here, which you can't see just yet. I'm going to click into this task. The property that I display on this list is called impact. So let's say I made a new customer connection, and that's why it was so valuable. This view lists that major task accomplishment And it also has a section for you to write the impact of that task or the impact of the project or the impact of the meeting. So you just need to take a quick screenshot of this, or you can export these databases into a Word file and send them over to your boss when it's time for evaluation, or you can use this as a quick reference sheet for your major accomplishments. I have 2 sections for accomplishments. This section is sorted so that only accomplishments that I've completed this year show up in this top section. And in the bottom, I have all of my major accomplishments, projects, tasks, meetings, and events that I've completed, so that I have a long running list if I was ever up for promotion or wanted to show the impact that I had in a specific organization over time. Finally, let's look at these master databases and check out everything that's going on behind the scenes. I have 7 master databases, and they're all interconnected using different relations and roll-up properties. For my tasks, I have a status button as well as a done button. If we go into it, you see what the automation does. It adds a date to the date completed property, and it also changes the status of that task to complete, and it also puts a check mark under the check category. I am not sure if I'm going to be able to let go of the check mark and just rely on the status variable just yet, so I still have that just in case. I have the priority level, which we've already discussed for my tasks. I have the due date, any team members that might be assigned specific tasks. I also have this staff variable, which I will probably not be using. This is how I populated my waiting on list in my old Notion setup. So I have it here because I may want to use it in the future, but it's not necessary to the system as it stands. I always like to have a date created and last date edited property. And then I have relations to all of the other relevant databases. So I have a relation between tasks and projects, meetings. Main database is actually my Google Calendar that auto-populates into this main database. The Google Calendar that I am assigned at work with my work Gmail address does not auto-populate because the privacy settings at work don't allow me to use an automation to bring those into Notion. So this is just for my personal calendar. I also have it linked to notes and areas. I have 2 variables related to whether or not one task is blocking another task. Let's look at task due today. Let's change that to not started. If the task due today is being blocked by yesterday's task, then we'll see here that yesterday's task now blocks today's task. But if I actually complete yesterday's task, I hit done, that changes to complete. Now this status has changed to not started because it is no longer blocked. So this is kind of a more intermediate advanced way of setting up this database. I've done several of these formulas and roll-ups so that I have project status that comes in from the project database. I have last meeting that comes in from the meetings database, last event and task notes. They're all roll-ups that are coming up from other databases that this database is linked to. Next up is my projects database. Just like my task database, it is linked to all of the other databases. And here is where I indicate what area the project is serving, as well as the total tasks related to that project, the completed tasks for that project. I also have a progress bar for each of the projects, indicators of when my most recent project note is, how many notes I have related to that project, upcoming meetings related to the project status, of course, when it was created and last edited, whether or not it needs to be added into my annual review, team members that are working on it, and date completed, which is auto-populated once I click on this completed tab. Let's go ahead and try it out. And there is the date completed. For meetings, again, relationships between this database and all of the other main databases. I also have the date and time that it was created and last edited. The specific roll-ups within this database are the amount of tasks discussed during that meeting, as well as the project that the meeting supports. Again, team members areas are linked here, and there's an accomplishments tab and an impact area in the event that these meetings are an accomplishment. I have an area to add the specific impact and why that meeting was considered an accomplishment. For events, this one is very, very complicated, and it has to do with an automation that I purchased. I will link the service that I use down below. It is called ToSync, and it's a way of doing a two-way sync between Notion and your Gmail calendar. As I said, it's limited in functionality for my work dashboard because my work has a firewall that prevents that from being automatically imported, but I do use that on my personal dashboard. I have a notes database, which, as you might guess, is linked to all of my other databases so that I can establish relationships between the notes and the events, meetings, projects, or specific tasks. The special roll-ups that I have for this database include the project that it is related to, the last meeting that I had that was related to that individual note, as well as any tasks that came from that note. Sometimes I'm just writing notes and I have areas in which I can add tasks in within those note templates. I also added a note type here and a tag for the notes in the event that I want to use those to sort later. I also added some checkboxes. This is another way for me to sort notes in other views. So if it is a project note, a meeting note, a task note, or an events note, then I can have that auto-populate into other views in the future. Not something that I'm doing right now, but something that I might want to use. So I went ahead and put it into the database. Since I don't really see these databases, they stay in this page and kind of out of the way. I don't have a problem adding extra properties. Within areas, this one is probably the simplest. I have projects that are related to those areas, all of the tasks that are related to those areas, meetings and notes related to that area, as well as some specific roll-ups for that. The number of projects that fall under that area is a roll-up. The status of current projects within that area, as well as the number of tasks within each area. That database ends with time created and last edited. And finally, there is a people database where I have the individual name of the person, their role, department, any individual notes that I might have, the specific tasks that they have been assigned, any projects that they are working on or related to, any meetings that I've had with them, any individual events, or if any notes are related to them. This can be useful for many reasons. If you can see an individual utility of having a people database, I'm interested in how it might be useful in your job context. So leave that in the comment section below. I bet you'll have some interesting comments there. All right, that covers all of the databases. The last thing that I want to cover are these buttons on the very top and the meeting template that I developed for this dashboard. On top, I have buttons for things that might happen at work. I might get a new task, so I want to quickly put it in. When I click new task, that opens up a new task. So we'll say new task from button. And if I don't add any additional information, that task is going to be auto-populated here in tasks to be scheduled. Since I didn't add any additional information, I just quickly added a specific task. If I want to add a new note, the same goes for that. I will click onto the new note button and it will open. I'll say new note from button, and that will close that note out. If I go into references, I will have here in my notes section, new note from button. Let's say that note is related to a specific meeting. I can come here to the meetings list. I'm going to say that that is related to newest meeting. And when I come up here to newest meeting, you'll see that I have the new note from button. The new future event button is something that I'm still learning to play with. When I go into new future event, that is going to auto-populate an event on my Google Calendar. So let's see, Google event test. I'm going to test that out. I'm going to close it up. And it actually did show up on my Google Calendar. So that has worked out. I can't put it into my work calendar, but I do have a combined view in my personal Google Calendar of my personal calendar as well as my work calendar. So I could view them in the same place. I just can't get my work calendar to import just yet. For now, I needed to move forward with establishing a work dashboard since I'm actually starting to get tasks now at work. And I know several people have had questions about how I import my Google Calendar into Notion. This way of embedding a Google Calendar is less elegant, but it is a free way that you can do that. And I like looking at things using this agenda view because it just gives me a little list of my work calendar here. The last button is my new meeting now button. And this happens to me a lot at work in general. And I think more so when you're in a new job, people are kind of catching you in the hallway and asking to meet with you. So this is new meeting now. And the reason that I have labeled it this way is because when I start it up, it is going to automatically set the date of the meeting for the date that it was created. I also have a meeting template. I'm going to click on that, and this is what it looks like. I like to know the purpose of a meeting, especially if I have some time to plan and I know that it's going to happen. This is less so when I'm kind of caught in the middle of the hallway. The agenda for the meeting will go here, the attendees will come here, and I'm actually going to edit this so that the team member database is actually auto-populated here within attendees. This is a place for meeting notes, and this is for tasks from this meeting. If I add a task here, that task is now linked to this specific meeting. If we go into the meetings calendar, you'll see this meeting template 2025 because I didn't change the name of it. Example template. You'll see that it has auto-populated under July 13th, which is today's date, and there's also a listing of the task that was discussed within that template. And that is it. That is my new work dashboard. Now that I have a pretty finalized version of this dashboard, let me know in the comment section down below, or better yet, leave this video a thumbs up if you'd like me to walk you through the process of building this dashboard. It will probably be a very lengthy video, but I'm all about getting into my pajamas, grabbing a big cup of tea, and walking you through how you can build this for yourself as well. If you're totally over talking about work, you might want to check out my personal dashboard here, or check out this video that YouTube thinks you'll like.